introduce someone that I met, oh my God, almost 20 years ago. And he started as a content creator before we were even talking about what content creators was. He's the founder, one of the co-founders of a website called Industry Cosign, who I was introduced to when I lived in New York back in the day. But he created so much content that he started his freelance career from the content that he created. I'm going to let him talk a little bit about it, but introduce yourself. How do you introduce yourself? Are you a writer, journalist, website? How do you introduce yourself?
Big said. That's how I introduce myself. No. I'm a freelance writer. Well, I like to say freelance contributor. I never considered myself a writer until recently. And I struggle with, there's a reason behind that, because even when I first got into the game, like there was such esteemed writers like Havelock Nelson and Bones Malone, and I'm like, I can never write in the way that they write. So I just put my thoughts to paper, to the computer. So that's why I never considered myself a writer per se. I understand that I am, but I also think that in this industry, or just in general, people give themselves titles that aren't deserved, and I never wanted to give myself.
That's so true. Or they give themselves titles that they want to have, right? Or
exactly. So
your screen is frozen.
That's not good.
And I don't know why it's frozen, but your face is scrunched up like this. I can hear you perfectly, but the screen is frozen.
Yeah, my end, I don't know. I'm sorry. I guess I should pay my electric. Everything is good on my end, but I guess I'll just continue talking to the people that at least look at my funny face and hear my voice.
It's perfectly okay. I want to go back. I want to go back to when you started. What were you so passionate about that you had to share? What was it was it the music? Was it the culture? What were you writing about initially when you guys said we're going to start this website?
Well, honestly, I never thought about being a writer. I never had it. I was a musician. I was a producer. I was a singer. And that was my whole thing for getting into the industry. But one of my, he's a friend now, Barry. Actually, I'll go back a little further. Carew Daniels, who I think he still writes for Daily News. Carew Daniels, I knew him. He knew that I was well connected in the hip hop industry because I went to school with several rappers before they became rappers. So he said, I think that you would be a great writer. And I'm like, you've never seen me write. But he's like, there's something about it. But he's like, I'm going to introduce you to my editor. There's a guy named Barry Wade. He had a magazine called One Nut Magazine. Coincidentally, One Nut. Coincidentally, I found out after I started writing that Chris X used to write for them, as well as Elliot Wilson. So I wrote for One Nut before them two, and great esteemed writers, and I appreciate what they've done for the culture as well. But he said that because of my relationship with a lot of hip hop people, that I should write. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And the funny thing is, the first interview that I was assigned was to a rapper named Biggie Smalls, the Notorious B.I.G. Now the funny story behind that was Mark Pitts, who was managing him at the time. Me and him, we went to high school together. And Puff and I, Diddy, Love, whatever his name is now, we were actually interns together. He was an intern at Uptown. I was an intern at Uptown. And we was in the same office. So that's how we knew each other. And we, so it was like my first writing assignment was with people that were with somebody who was destined to be the greatest rapper of all time and two people I've already known. So I was like, okay, this should be easy. So Biggie Smalls was my very first interview. And one thing I always bring out to people is the one thing that he stated in the interview that stuck in my mind. I had asked him where would he see himself in 20 years, and he said dead. And
after you heard the first album, what else could he say? Yeah.
Exactly. So coincidentally, I was also doing music back then. I was a music producer. I had done a track on Tracy Lee's album called Many Faces. So me and Mark were constantly on the phone because he got me my first track as a producer. Yes. And then the morning that Biggie died, my mother called me and said, some Biggie Smalls dead. And I was like, wait a minute. So I called Mark, but I know Mark was on his way out to California to meet with Biggie, coincidentally. So that all of that experience was like really crazy where I had to look for the magazine because it's like, this is my very first interview. And by that time I had did so many interviews with so many rappers where it just boggled my mind because I'm like, my very first interview was with somebody who was destined to be great, but then he was also killed, out in California, and it was just crazy. But I got the bug from there.
You said I want to just pick on what you said. You said you did so many interviews. How did you know? I mean, obviously you have relationships with these people, but how did you know what questions to ask to get the responses for them to trust you to kind of reveal things that they wouldn't normally reveal?
The advantage I had with some of the people I interviewed was I actually knew them. My thought process as a reader is I want to read something that I haven't read about. Exactly. So if I'm interviewing a Jay-Z, why am I going to ask him the same questions that Bob already asked him, Double XL, or the next? So I'm going to think of questions that no one else has thought of. So when I started doing that, I didn't realize when I was doing that was actually good because my fear was if I asked questions that nobody knew the questions or the answers to, that people wouldn't be interested. But it had the opposite effect because a lot of people that I did speak to at the time were like, no one's ever asked me that question before. So I'm like, I got into something where even to this day, my goal is whenever you come read or listen to one of my interviews, you're going to learn something you didn't learn before, even if you think you know everything about the artist. And like I said, the advantage I had with some of the rappers I did interview initially, I knew them, so I could ask them questions that they can willingly answer to me that they wouldn't give someone else a response to. So I use that to my advantage throughout the years, and to this day, I still have that mindset. What am I going to ask that people don't know, or if they did know, have a different angle? So my whole thing was from the very beginning, even when I had asked Biggie, where did he see himself in 10 years? Now, that's not a question that you don't hear.
You don't normally, yeah.
But for
not
him,
at all.
Like, oh, I never thought about that, and then he gives a response. So it's like, if I can give you the type of questions where you can have to go back and be like, I didn't think about that question. I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, even if it's not a good question. But if I can have you perplexed for 1 second, because I think a lot of these artists, especially the more that they start doing interviews, they anticipate what type of questions they're going to get.
Of course.
And I make sure that I don't do that.
Unfortunately, most of us ask the same questions over and over and over. And
it's part of the game. But it's like, I'm going to throw something in there where you're going to be like, damn, I never thought about that. Or, wow, that's a good question. So that's what it is. I try to think of things that other people haven't. And another thing I don't do, where I know that people do research and do homework, I don't. The reason why I don't, in some cases, in most cases, is because I don't want it in my mind to ask the question that someone else already asked, because sometimes things linger. I think it's human nature for things to linger in our mind. So if I'm reading up what you wrote about somebody else and I'm about to do an interview with them, then it might creep in my mind as I'm asking questions to ask the question you already answered. I mean, you already asked. And even if it's good, and even if it's a follow-up question, I want to have the mindset that, and I've always told some artists this, I'm going to ask you something as if I know nothing about you. And some of the times I honestly didn't, which gave me the advantage, because I'm also asking not as a journalist, but I'm asking as somebody who wants to know who you are without knowing who you are.
The natural reader, yes.
Yeah. So that's how. So I look at it as a reader as opposed to an interviewer or writer or journalist or whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely. So you had mentioned earlier when we were talking that all of your interviews and all of your resources that you had with Industry Cosign led editors to call you. So you never had to go through the process of kind of pitching yourself as a writer. You were always given the opportunity.
I was lucky, and up until recently, I never pitched. Because when I was doing my site, I had the type of interviews and the type of people that the editors were trying to get and they didn't have access to. So the advantage I've always had throughout my whole career is that I was always well connected. I came into the industry, I went to school with Slick Rick, Dana Dane, MC Search, Mark Pitts, Jennifer Aniston. So I come into the game already with a Rolodex of people without even, and I was doing parties at the time. So I had access, and I worked with Video Music Box. So I had the advantage of actually knowing people, not just brushing by them, but actually knowing them. So every magazine that hired me, they came to me because they knew my Rolodex was crazy.
You had that.
Yeah. So for me to pitch, I'm like,
So did that allow you to really make up your own rates? I mean, what did that give you in advantage wise? How'd you take advantage of that?
Well, the thing was, I was also doing parties. I also did celebrity basketball games. So for me, writing wasn't a means to an end. It wasn't something I was trying to do. It was something I was able to do. So I was always approached. So I never had I always tell people I've been lucky where I didn't have to do the first time I actually had an interview to be a writer was my first time at Black Enterprise. And the first time I did that, I botched that interview so badly because I never interviewed for a position.
You were like, this is new to me, right?
And the woman that interviewed me, she talked like they knew my track record. They knew what I was capable of doing. But she said to me, "You weren't prepared for this interview." And I said, "You're absolutely right."
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And she said, "But I know what you can do. I know what you've done. I can hire you as a freelancer as opposed to putting you on staff." And I respected that because she could have just wrote me off and be like, you know what, he's not ready. And she was right. At the time, I wasn't ready. And the fact that I started freelancing, but right away, when I started freelancing for Black Enterprise, I became the top content creator at Black Enterprise as a freelancer. So obviously I had something. And even when I was, and the thing is, I didn't necessarily pitch. I was given like the latitude to bring celebrity interviews, to bring executive interviews. Anything that had to do with Black business was anything that I was able to bring. So I did that without having to, and luckily for me, even the editors at the time, I guess my reputation preceded me because it wasn't a matter of, well, I'm gonna have to show him. Now, even to this day, I still get coached on writing because I tell people, I've never went to school. I've not taken one journalism class. I've not taken one, whether online, whether in class. I've never taken a journalism class. But I was able to draw an audience from the Industry Cosign when I worked at Vibe, when I worked at The Source. Every publication I ever worked at, more people come to the site when I wrote for them, for whatever reason. Now, so I couldn't be that bad of a writer. Now, I may not have been technical in that aspect. And this is the thing, and I tell people this all the time from personal experience. You have a lot of actors out there who never took an acting class, but honed their skills once the talent was recognized.
So, through the work, yeah.
I know plenty of writers who went to school.
I'm the same way, yeah.
That can't even like we work at the same magazine, and
we have a really bad connection. I don't know what is going on, but you're so choppy. Is that your connection? It's so choppy.
My internet connection, yeah.
Because I know you dropping dimes.
Give me 1 second.
Are you saying something?
No, I'm putting my. Okay, I'm changing from Wi-Fi to.
I can hear you pretty clearly now. Your face is still frozen though. Thank you guys for being patient. No, I can see your face now.
Okay.
No, it's frozen again.
I changed my Wi-Fi connection to landline. I'm so sorry.
It's even worse now. Okay, I think our guest is going to pop back in. I want to continue.
Is this better? Hopefully it's better.
Yes.
Hopefully this is better. I reloaded the site and everything. I'm so sorry. I changed the connection from Wi-Fi to landline. So hopefully no interruptions. And I usually do landline, but because I was working on my other computer, I forgot to switch it. So my apologies. But I'm back.
Okay, great. You're good.
I'm back. So sorry about that.
I want you to finish the statement you were making about how all of the editors reached out to you because of the work that you did. And how, yeah.
So, like I said, luckily for me, like my Rolodex was, I mean, even to this day, like I don't know anybody who has a better Rolodex than me when it comes to that. Well, maybe with the newer acts because I'm not as, But anyway, so I think the advantage that they knew that they had was the only thing they had to do was make sure that my work was what the company wanted, as opposed to having to coach me to get interviewed or get interviewed. Publicists, like, even though I hate publicists, I have like all of them.
Don't say that.
I say that purposely because, like I said, I deal with them so much. It's like some of them I'm like, okay, you're bugging me a little too much, but I get it. It's a job. But I think that because I've always been self-contained, most editors I've worked with over the years enjoyed it so much where they would look at me like, listen, do your thing. As long as you do your thing where we can do what we're supposed to do, I'm okay with whatever you do. That's changed recently, but it is what it is. But I've always had that for the past literally 20 plus years. And I've gotten so used to doing things on my own because I also run my own site. My site turns 20 in March. I do my own thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and what the funny thing is that
amazing.
People look at me and it's like, well, how are you able to do all of this on your own, getting, celebrities like Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God, and all these people? I'm like, because my connections in the industry are actual connections. And when I worked at The Source, when I had a bunch of interns, I told them to make sure that whatever you do in this industry, make sure people are connected to you and not where you work. Now, if people are coming to me now because I work
at great advice.
Yeah,
great advice.
People may come to me because I work at Black Enterprise, but the majority, 90% of the people that come to me is because I'm Big CED, not because I'm at Black Enterprise. Because wherever I go next, I still have those contacts. I still have those connections. And I tell people that I made sure that even when I was doing parties, when I was doing parties 20 years ago, it was about the DJ, it was about Kid Capri, it was about Ron G. I made it about me. I made sure people knew who the promoter was who hired these DJs. So I have the same mindset even with writing. You're going to come to my site, you're going to see good content regardless. So I try to, like, I have that so ingrained in my mind that wherever I go, I know that I'm definitely an asset because as a matter of fact, I shouldn't say this, but I know that the one time that I was, because this is my third time at Black Enterprise, but the second time at Black Enterprise, the reason why I was let go wasn't because of anything I was doing, was because in my mind, the person that was over me couldn't direct me. And I was still the top producer. I'm the top producer at Black Enterprise, but you want to get rid of me not because my work is bad, not because I'm not bringing in traffic, but because I don't come to you for anything. I don't have to. You should embrace it. I know if I had somebody like that on my team, I'm like, do what you do. Come back with good work, and I'm with you. I just want to work with people like that where it's like, listen, I respect your work as long as you respect mine. But I think that in this day and age, and I say this specifically with editors because I'm not an editor, I will never be an editor. So
no, don't say never. Never say never.
No, the reason why I say that is because an editor's job is definitely a hard job, and the reason why I say that is because you have to go over someone's work. You have to go over someone's work, and sometimes you have to change the voice or change things that kind of, because my only beef with editors coming up was they changed the context of what I wrote about. Yeah. So if I have a style that I've been writing for all these years, you change it to make me sound like this, your name isn't on it. People are going to look at me. So people look at my work and they look at it like, that's not you. And the thing is, I don't complain. And people are like, well, you need to, I'm like, you know why I don't complain? Because I've worked at places where editors come and go. I complain what happens. Now there's a little beef between me and the editor. Now, no, you know what? Do what you get paid to do. If my traffic numbers are what it's supposed to be, I'm satisfied. I'm not going to say I'm happy, but I'm satisfied. And that's going to be the case. And one thing that people know about me, I'm going to always be honest. So I can't always go to somebody telling them what the situation is because they might take it in the wrong way. And I don't want a working relationship where it's not working because of personal feelings.
So let me ask you this. The young lady that I interviewed a week ago, Tanya, she's been freelancing for 3 years, right? She's been in Condé Nast, Traveler. She's done some really great things that I've only dreamed of. She said when she started her career, she wrote a bucket list of all the places that she wanted to write for. And now that you've been doing it for over 20, have you created a bucket list? And is there anybody that you want to work with that you haven't?
This is going to sound so funny, Black enterprise was the epitome of Black entrepreneurship and Black business when I was coming up. I don't think
it still is.
Well, it still is. That's what I'm saying. When I say was, I meant as far as when I came up.
Yeah.
And my generation, like Black enterprise was like if you wanted to do anything, either you had to be featured in Black enterprise or you had to work for Black enterprise. So the opportunity for me to work at Black enterprise was the epitome for me. Still is. And I tell people that despite me feeling, and this is natural, that I don't get paid enough. The fact that I've worked with, not only worked with Black enterprise, like I said, this is my third time working with Black enterprise, but I can say that I've gotten the most traffic in Black enterprise history. No one can take that away from me. Black enterprise can get rid of me today, or I can decide to walk away from Black enterprise right now. I can guarantee that it'll take years for somebody to supersede the numbers that I've gotten for Black enterprise. I'm proud of that because Black enterprise was always the standard. Yeah. And I worked at Vibe, I worked at The Source, I've worked at Impact, I worked at Radio Magazine, but Black enterprise has been, and right now will be, the magazine that I feel that should be the standard when it comes to Black entrepreneurs or Black business owners. Now, there's many magazines after that's going around doing whatever they do, but I came up, like I said, in the 70s and 80s. Black enterprise was it. Black enterprise is still it. And like I said, if I wrote my last article for Black enterprise today, I'm still gonna be proud of everything I've done and the fact that I was there and they allowed me to come. And not only allowed me, but the first time I left, they asked me to come back. Then years later, they asked me to come back again. And then to be part of the renaissance that took place online. Because when I got to Black enterprise, we were averaging 400,000 unique visitors a month. Now we're in excess of 10 million unique visitors a month. I don't know the exact numbers, it could be higher or lower, but I know that I played a part in that. Excuse me, I play a part in that, and no one can take that away from me. No one can.
So you haven't created a bucket list?
Well, I'm going to somehow, but you know what?
I hadn't either. I mean, no shame. I hadn't either until I was like, you've only been doing this for 3 years? I was like, wait a minute, something ain't right?
But the one thing that no one can take away from me is whatever accolades. And the thing is, I've always said to people that to be a non-traditional writer, I've been in the midst of people who have BAs and all of these degrees.
All of those, yes.
But they can't write. I mean, you can write all around me, do flips, whatever. But my traffic is the reason why people come to the site. Like the way I word it. And at one point in time, one of the editors, I'm not going to mention her name even though I want to. One of the editors made it seem as if like I was the worst writer on staff, right? And I'm like, I can deal with that because if I'm the worst writer on your staff, you have a great staff. But she brought in all these writers. None of them surpassed me in traffic.
Oh, yeah.
They're so great.
And they were better writers, right?
Yeah, the better writers, you edit all the pieces. So if they're better writers and you're editing, and yet I'm still coming out on top, I have something. And if you as an editor don't recognize that I have something that others are being drawn to, and when I say others, it's not necessarily the people that know me. Because the audience, I don't know 10 million people. So
right.
If 10 million people are coming to the site and looking at my article and on an average where for the past 4 years, I've been the top traffic provider for Black enterprise, but you're telling me that I'm a bad writer, you know what? Well, I appreciate being a bad writer because you know what? That means I can get better. And you know what? And I have to admit, I think I have gotten better because of her criticism. I didn't get better because she was leading me in the direction to get better. I got better in spite.
Absolutely.
I got better because I'm like, you know what? Whatever I'm learning now, whatever I'm doing that's going to make Black enterprise number one or carry them to the top, if no one else is watching, at least I know that I'm the reason. I'm not gonna say, you know what? Let me take it back. I'm part of the reason why we're getting the numbers that we're getting. If I'm number 1 for the next 5 years, even if I'm number 10 for the next 10 years, whatever, I'm still part of that, and I'm still part of the fabric to bring Black enterprise back to some prominence, because everybody wrote up Black enterprise. I wrote up Black enterprise. When I was asked to come back, I'm like, I love Black enterprise, the name. You know, I think that I was, you know, they did me wrong, but you know what? Things happen for a reason. I went back, and I'm glad I went back. And another thing that's funny is that other job offers I've gotten since I've been at Black Enterprise, I've turned down, you know, for various reasons. 2 with very good reasons, because one of the companies no longer, and the other company had to, like, I think they went bankrupt or whatever. But for me, it was a matter of me trying to show loyalty to Black Enterprise. And even though I don't feel it's been reciprocated, and
I understand. Yeah.
The thing is, and I know when I do these interviews and when I do speak, I always tell people I speak the truth. I can't get in trouble for speaking about truth. And if somebody from Black Enterprise is watching or is seeing this, I'm hoping that they're looking at it. But this is not in any way to down Enterprise, because if it was that bad, I would leave.
Absolutely. You wouldn't still be working there. Yeah.
I love what I do for Black Enterprise. I love the fact that people outside of Black Enterprise appreciate what I've done for Black Enterprise. And I'm going to continue to do it, because my mother said you have 2 things, your name and your word. So regardless of what goes on or how I feel like I should be doing something else or doing something better, I'm still Big Said. I can take what I have, go someplace else, and make them better. That's always to be my mindset. Wherever I work, I'm going to make them better. I don't care if it's one more view better. If I'm responsible for that one view, I'm going to take credit for it. Because one thing that I've gone away from, and people told me that I've got to stop, I've gone away from claiming the credit that is deserved me. I'm always like, no, but this, that, it's like, no. Everyone else knows it. Stop it. There's time to be humble. There's a time to show pride. It's like, this is not that time.
Okay.
You know, you've done your thing. You're doing your thing. Continue to do your thing. And whatever riches that you feel that you deserve will eventually come. And the good thing is that I'm not far from being over, regardless of how old I am now. And I know that there's some people, there were a lot of successful people that weren't successful until they got to their 50s and 60s anyway. Yeah. So I'm still on pace. And there's a lot of people who were burnt out after 30, 35. I have friends that were making 6 figures 20 years ago, and like they can't even get back in the industry, and the regular job they have, they're just frustrated. I'm not frustrated. I'm happy to be able to do something I can do. I work from home. I'm able to, like, you know, still do my site. So if I'm unhappy with what I'm doing elsewhere, I have my site.
You can still do your own. That's exactly right. You made me think of this as the, you know, we're celebrating 50 years of hip hop. We're celebrating all of these artists in the recognition of all of these people that made hip hop what it is. Do you feel like we as the journalists, the storytellers, are kind of getting our accurate due, or do you feel like some other stories should be told as well? What's missing?
Yeah, the only thing they're worried about is whatever popular rapper that they can recognize. Because, like I said, when you have people like I said, the Bones Malones and the Chris X's and the Elliott Wilsons, I mean, the people that were in the midst of it when hip hop was doing its thing, they should be recognized as well. And I think that it's kind of like we should recognize our own, but at the same time, a lot of natural bias is coming. And a lot of people, and I like what y'all did as far as the top 50 hip hop. And the funny thing is that, of course, I knew the majority of them because, like, you know, I know them. But it's like, I definitely appreciate the fact that was done, because the only thing that I don't like about the whole hip hop 50 thing, and I've been saying this since last year, is that the gatekeepers are the ones making the decision that's not helping the people that's involved with the culture. Like, we don't have people involved in the decisions that can recognize the people that really need to be recognized. So you're only going to recognize the people that you either know about commercially, or and then December 31st, 2023, when that day is over,
is that it? Yeah. Right.
You're not going to care about hip hop, because it's the next time you're going to care about hip hop is maybe the 60th anniversary, 65th, 75th. Right. You don't care about it until the 50th. Because you know what? whoever's making money from it are not the ones who were actually building it. And I think it's just unfair. And the reason why I haven't participated in the way that people are like, well, you should. No, I shouldn't. Because hip hop is something I've lived